Kai Mercer sat on his worn-out sofa, staring at the ceiling. The city outside was quiet, too quiet. The news channels had been repeating the same message for days. Planetary lockdown, in effect due to cosmic radiation flare. Stay indoors. He had always imagined being a part of history, but this was not the adventure he had in mind. Beside him, a soft humming sound filled the apartment. Kai glanced at his roommate, Threxel, who was pacing near the window. Threxel wasn't exactly human, with scales that shimmered faintly green in the dim light, sharp angular features, and wings folded neatly on his back. He looked like a creature straight out of a science fiction book. Yet, here he was, trying to adapt to the same lockdown rules that humans were struggling with. Kai rubbed his eyes. "How are you holding up?" he asked. Threxel paused mid-step, tilting his head. "The quarantine is tolerable," he said in a voice that was more melodic than any human's. "However, my body is entering cycle season. It is inconvenient." Kai frowned. "Cycle?" "It is a natural physiological event," Threxel explained, his claws tapping nervously against the windowsill. "My species undergoes periodic fluctuations in core temperature. When combined with environmental stressors, such as lockdowns, it can be unpredictable." Kai stared at him blankly. "Unpredictable how?" Threxel didn't answer immediately. Instead, a low hum began emanating from his chest, vibrating through the floorboards. Then, the air in the apartment grew warmer, as if the sun had suddenly moved inside. Kai felt sweat bead on his forehead. Threxel?" Kai asked, edging toward the thermostat. "Is it supposed to feel like this in February?" The alien's eyes flickered with embarrassment. "It is normal for my species. To you, it may feel alarming." Alarming didn't even begin to describe it. The lights flickered. The computer monitor buzzed. Even the small kitchen fridge let out a faint whine. Kai jumped back as a small burst of glowing spores floated out of Threxel's scales. They sparkled in the dim light. Harmless but undeniably weird. Kai laughed nervously. "Okay. Yeah. Weird. I get it." Threxel's eyes softened, and he gave a small nod. "I apologize for any discomfort. It is unavoidable." Kai sank back into the sofa. "Unavoidable? Huh? Sounds like we're in for a fun few weeks." He tried to sound lighthearted, but the truth was, he wasn't sure how fun it could be to live with an alien going through this cycle while trapped indoors. The first day of the lockdown had already been strange. Kai had been planning to catch up on his engineering projects, binge-watch old series, and maybe learn a new recipe. Now, with Threxel radiating heat that could rival a small furnace, even opening a bag of chips felt like a risky adventure. Hours passed. Threxel's fluctuations became more noticeable. One moment, the room felt pleasantly warm, like a cozy spring afternoon. The next, it was so hot, Kai could see heat waves rising from the carpet. He tried suggesting that they open the windows, but Threxel's wings twitched nervously. "My species is sensitive to outside air during cycle season," he explained. "Exposure may worsen the fluctuations." Kai sighed. "Right. Of course. Can't just have a quiet lockdown with a normal roommate. No. I get stuck with this." He gestured at Threxel, who looked almost apologetic. By evening, Kai realized this wasn't just a minor inconvenience. Threxel's heat waves were affecting the electronics. His laptop shut down twice, and the fridge beeped loudly before its interior lights flickered out. The apartment was small, and every burst of thermal energy seemed amplified, bouncing off the walls and ceiling. Kai grabbed a fan and pointed it at Threxel, hoping it would at least help. "Maybe this will cool things down a bit." Threxel paused, letting the fan blow over his scaled shoulders. "The cooling is effective. For now," Kai muttered under his breath. "For now. Yeah, I'll be living in a sauna for the next week or two." As night fell, the lockdown officially began. The city lights outside were mostly dark, and emergency alerts continued flashing across all screens. Kai sat back, feeling the weight of isolation. He missed normal life, the kind where human problems stayed human-sized. Now, he had an alien roommate with unpredictable biology, and a city on lockdown because of a cosmic flare. Threxel, sensing Kai's tension, moved closer. Do not worry. Humans are remarkably adaptable. You will survive this period. Kai gave a half-smile. Thanks, I think. I hope your adaptable part includes turning down the heat a bit. The alien's expression was unreadable. I will attempt moderation, but do not expect perfection. Kai laughed, though it was more of a nervous chuckle. He looked around the apartment, boxes of supplies, a small pile of engineering tools, and the sofa that was now slightly scorched from heat bursts. It was all going to have to hold them both for weeks. Weeks of confinement. Weeks of adjusting to a roommate who could unintentionally turn their home into a greenhouse. He settled into the sofa, pulling a blanket around his shoulders. Threxel curled up on the opposite side of the room, scales dimming to a calmer glow. The alien's thermal pulse slowed slightly, and for a moment, the apartment was quiet, almost peaceful. But Kai knew it wouldn't last. Cycle season was only beginning. He could feel it in the air. The spikes of heat, the sporadic buzzing of electronics, the faint glow from Threxel's skin. It was going to be a long, unusual lockdown. Kai shook his head, half in disbelief, half in amusement. Only me, he muttered. Only me, stuck at home with an alien roommate during his cycle, when the world outside is already a mess. He leaned back and tried to focus on the small things, reading a book, listening to music, counting down the hours until sleep. The lights flickered again. Threxel's glow pulsed. Kai sighed. Yep, he said aloud. Definitely going to need a plan for this. Outside, the city remained quiet, streets empty except for emergency vehicles and the occasional drone overhead. Inside, the apartment hummed with alien energy, human frustration, and a strange bond forming between two species, forced together by circumstance. Kai didn't know what the next days would bring. Heat surges? More spore emissions? Flickering electronics? Probably all of the above. But one thing was clear. He was not alone in this lockdown, and somehow, that made it just a little easier to survive. Kai woke up to a strange smell. At first, he thought it was the leftover takeout from yesterday. But as he rubbed his eyes and glanced around the apartment, he realized something was very wrong. The room felt hot. Not just warm, hot, like the sun had moved inside the apartment. Threxel was already awake, standing in the middle of the living room. His scales shimmered with a bright green-gold glow, and small bursts of energy radiated from his body. A soft humming sound pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, vibrating against the walls and floor. Morning, Kai said cautiously, shielding his eyes. You, feeling okay? Threxel turned his head toward him, eyes wide but calm. I am functional. Though my thermal emissions are reaching peak levels. It is the second day of cycle season, Kai groaned. Second day, huh? Wonderful. This is going to be a long week, or maybe month. He looked around at the apartment. The lights flickered, and a faint sizzling sound came from the toaster. You're frying the electronics, aren't you? It is an unavoidable side effect, Threxel said. My body radiates heat and bioelectric energy in irregular surges. Your devices are sensitive to such fluctuations. Kai pinched the bridge of his nose. Great. Just great. So now not only am I stuck inside for a lockdown, I also have to babysit a walking power surge. Threxel's wings twitched. I apologize. I am not intentionally disruptive. Kai grabbed a chair and positioned it between him and Threxel like a defensive wall. I don't think it's intentional, but it's happening anyway. The first chaos of the morning came when Threxel sneezed, or at least what resembled a sneeze. A small burst of glowing spores shot across the room, landing on the keyboard, the floor, and even Kai's coffee mug. Ugh! Not the coffee, Kai yelled, brushing the glowing dust away. The keyboard beeped, and then shut down completely. Okay. Yeah. We need a plan. Threxel tilted his head. A plan? For what, exactly? Kai waved his hand at the flickering lights and the humming gadgets. For living in the same apartment without anything exploding or melting. You're, powerful. Too powerful. For small spaces. The alien's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. I see. Your species values safety and stability in living environments. Understood. I will attempt to moderate my emissions. Kai smiled weakly. Attempting is better than nothing. Hours passed, and the apartment became a strange mix of heat waves and humming electronics. Kai had moved his laptop to the bathroom in a desperate attempt to protect it from Threxel's bioelectric pulses. The refrigerator beeped repeatedly as the internal temperature fluctuated, threatening to spoil the food. I think we need to build something, Kai said, pacing. A shield, or a barrier, or some kind of containment for your heat. Threxel studied him curiously. Containment? That sounds primitive, but perhaps effective. Kai grabbed every blanket, pillow, and piece of foam insulation he could find. He built a makeshift enclosure around the main living area, draping sheets and towels over chairs and tables like a small fort. Threxel inspected it carefully, touching the edges of the cloth with his clawed fingers. It will help, yes. It is not perfect, but it may stabilize the fluctuations. Kai slumped against the sofa. Stabilize. Right. Just enough to survive the day without the fire department showing up. By afternoon, things got worse. The heat pulses began interacting with the apartment's wiring. Lights flickered wildly. The small ceiling fan spun uncontrollably, and the toaster started sparking. Even the smoke detector let out an alarming beep. Okay, this is bad, Kai muttered, ducking as a spark flew near his head. We need to get this under control now. Threxel raised his claw. I believe manual modulation may be necessary. I can attempt to suppress the energy output temporarily, but it requires concentration, and will exhaust me. Kai looked around nervously. Exhaust you? What? Like a nap? Or fainting? Fainting is not the correct term, Threxel said. I will enter a low-energy state. You will need to monitor the environment until the surge subsides. Kai groaned. Of course. Me, the human, monitoring a bioelectric alien sauna, while stuck indoors. Perfect. They worked together, draping more blankets, unplugging unnecessary appliances, and moving heat-sensitive objects to the corners of the apartment. Threxel focused, lowering his temperature slightly, and the room became bearable for about 10 minutes. Then, a sudden pulse hit, sending the lights flickering and the small kitchen toaster leaping from the counter with a spark. Kai ducked. Seriously? Threxel gave a small hiss. It is difficult to control. I did not anticipate the amplitude of the surge. Kai sighed. He sat down, feeling the sweat running down his back. We need to, I don't know, engineer a better system. Something to absorb your energy surges before they wreck everything. Threxel nodded. Yes. A containment field of some kind. We can use metallic objects to redirect excess energy safely. Kai's eyes lit up. Redirect energy. I can do that. I have leftover drone parts and old circuit boards in the storage closet. Together, they spent hours dismantling old electronics, arranging metal sheets, and connecting wires in a strange, haphazard way. It looked like a mess, but it had a purpose. When Threxel focused, the makeshift shield absorbed the initial pulses, spreading the heat more evenly through the apartment and preventing sparks from flying. Kai collapsed onto the sofa. I can't believe this works. Threxel's scales dimmed slightly as he exhaled a long, slow breath. It is functional, though your ingenuity is surprising. Humans adapt quickly under stress. Kai gave a tired laugh. Yeah, well, surviving your heat cycle is stressful. You're welcome. By evening, the apartment was quiet, at least compared to the chaos of the day. The lights flickered only occasionally, and the humming had turned into a low, steady rhythm. Kai leaned back and finally allowed himself a moment of calm. Outside, the lockdown continued. The city was quiet, and emergency alerts flickered across screens with updates about the cosmic flare. It didn't matter to Kai right now. Inside, he had survived his first full day of living with Threxel's heat cycle. Barely. Threxel approached him, moving carefully so as not to disrupt the fragile balance. You did well today, Kai. Few humans would have endured such fluctuations without panic. Kai smirked, though he was exhausted. Well, I panicked. Just quietly. You didn't notice. The alien's eyes glimmered with amusement. I noticed. But I also noticed that you persevered. Humans are remarkable in your persistence. Kai nodded slowly, glancing around the apartment. The blankets, the metal sheets, the humming gadgets, it was chaotic, but it worked. For now, tomorrow, he said. We do this all over again, right? Threxel gave a small nod. Cycle season is ongoing. We will need to continue adaptation and containment. But together, it is manageable. Kai leaned back, letting out a long breath. He didn't feel ready for the next day. But at least he knew one thing. He was not facing this alone. And somehow, despite the heat, the humming, and the chaos, he felt a small spark of pride. He was surviving. He was human. And humans adapted. Outside, the city remained silent. Inside, two very different beings, one human, one alien, had found a fragile rhythm in a strange and unpredictable world. And somehow, that made surviving a lockdown a little less impossible. The next morning, Kai woke to a new problem. The apartment felt hotter than ever. It wasn't just Threxel's usual heat cycle. It was more intense, unpredictable, and stronger than anything he had seen before. Even the makeshift containment shield they had built yesterday was struggling. Threxel paced the living room, scales glowing a fiery green gold. Small waves of energy pulsed outward from his body, causing the floor tiles to feel slightly warm under Kai's bare feet. The humming sound that accompanied Threxel's heat cycle had grown louder, almost like a low-frequency alarm. Kai, Threxel said, voice tense. The energy surges are exceeding yesterday's levels. This is unusual. I may require additional stabilization. Kai rubbed his temples. Unusual? Yeah. No kidding. I mean, we survived yesterday barely. Now it's like your body wants to turn the apartment into a sauna meets lab explosion. Threxel's eyes flickered. I apologize. I did not anticipate this severity. External environmental stressors may be amplifying the fluctuations. The cosmic radiation flare is nearing its peak. Kai froze. He had been following the news alerts all morning. But reality hit him hard. Wait. You mean the flare we've been hearing about? It's going to make your heat worse? Yes. The radiation interacts with my biology in a way that increases thermal and bioelectric output. If unregulated, the emissions could become hazardous. Kai swallowed. Hazardous? Like, what? Burning down the apartment? Threxel's gaze was serious. Potentially. If not contained, the energy could damage the structure and electronic systems. Kai's heart sank. He had thought yesterday was the hard part. He hadn't realized the real crisis was just beginning. By mid-morning, the situation escalated. The small apartment, which had already felt like a pressure cooker, became an unpredictable environment. Every few minutes, Threxel's body would pulse with sudden heat surges. Light fixtures flickered and buzzed. The small ceiling fan wobbled dangerously. Even the fridge's temperature swung wildly, threatening to spoil their food. Kai paced nervously, thinking. He had handled yesterday with blankets and metal sheets, but this was beyond improvisation. They needed a real system, something to absorb and stabilize Threxel's energy surges. Okay, Kai muttered to himself. Time to go full engineer mode. He opened the storage closet and began gathering spare circuit boards, aluminum panels, insulated wires, and old drone motors. Threxel watched silently, wings slightly extended, as if he were judging Kai's choices. "This will help?" Threxel asked cautiously. "I hope so," Kai replied. "We need to redirect your energy somewhere safe before the walls start melting." Together, they worked to assemble a crude but functional energy absorption system. Aluminum panels were stacked around Threxel's usual resting spot. Wires connected the panels to spare batteries and motors, creating a circuit that could absorb and disperse the heat and energy spikes. Threxel lowered his body carefully onto the panels, focusing on regulating his emissions. A pulse of energy hit the system, making the wires hum and the aluminum panels vibrate. Kai jumped back, shielding his face. "It's working," Kai shouted over the hum. "The spikes aren't reaching the ceiling lights anymore." Threxel exhaled slowly, scales dimming slightly. "The system is effective, though only partially. If the flare intensifies further, it may not suffice." Kai swallowed. "Partially? Great. So we survive for now. But we're still at risk." By afternoon, the cosmic flare outside intensified. Purple and gold waves shimmered in the sky, visible through the apartment window. The city streets were completely empty. Emergency broadcasts warned of radiation spikes and power fluctuations across the region. Kai felt a chill both from fear and exhaustion. Threxel's body reacted immediately. His heat pulses grew stronger. Sparks leapt from unplugged devices. The apartment floor vibrated slightly. "Kai," Threxel said urgently, "we may need manual intervention. I cannot regulate the energy fully on my own." "What kind of intervention?" Kai asked, heart racing. "You must operate the secondary stabilizers manually. Connect the grounding rods and adjust the circuit distribution to balance the surges. It will require constant attention during peak pulses." Kai's stomach sank. "You mean, I have to babysit your energy while the cosmic flare is going on?" "Yes. It is critical to prevent structural damage." Reverse. Kai took a deep breath. He had survived improvisation yesterday, chaos in the morning, and partial containment this afternoon. He could do this. He had to. For the next several hours, Kai and Threxel worked as a team. Kai monitored the circuits, connecting wires and moving grounding rods, while Threxel focused on suppressing his bioelectric energy as much as possible. The apartment became a controlled chaos of humming panels, vibrating aluminum sheets, and glowing green-gold energy pulses. Every now and then, a surge would get through, knocking over a chair or flickering the lights. Each time, Kai adjusted the circuits, sweat dripping down his forehead, heart pounding. Threxel's breathing grew heavier, wings slightly extended for balance. "You're holding up," Kai said, glancing at the alien. "Better than I expected." Threxel's eyes glimmered faintly. "Humans show remarkable endurance under stress. I appreciate your efforts, Kai. Few beings would manage this without panic." Kai gave a short laugh, trying to hide his own fatigue. "Yeah, well, panic is optional. Survival is mandatory." As the sun began to set, the flare outside reached its peak. The sky glowed violet and gold, and radiation pulses caused the apartment to vibrate subtly. Threxel's heat cycles reached their most unstable point. Kai gritted his teeth. "Okay, now it's serious. No messing around." He adjusted the grounding rods one last time and repositioned the aluminum panels. The secondary stabilizers hummed loudly, absorbing most of the energy. Threxel exhaled a long breath, focusing every ounce of concentration on suppressing the remaining surges. His scales dimmed slightly, but the energy pulses were still strong, almost stable. Threxel muttered, voice strained. Kai's hands shook as he held the last circuit in place. "Almost. Come on. Just a little longer." Minutes felt like hours. The apartment vibrated and hummed with energy, but slowly, gradually, the surges diminished. Lights flickered less, devices hummed steadily, and the air grew tolerable again. Threxel let out a long, controlled breath, settling onto the aluminum panels. "The energy is contained. For now." Kai slumped to the floor, dripping sweat and utterly exhausted. For now. Yeah. I'll take it. He glanced around the apartment. The makeshift system had worked. It wasn't perfect, but it had prevented disaster. Outside, the cosmic flare slowly began to fade. The sky returned to a dull orange glow as the radiation levels decreased. Kai and Threxel shared a moment of quiet relief. You did well, Kai, Threxel said, his voice soft but sincere. Without your intervention, this apartment may have suffered severe damage. You saved the situation. Kai wiped sweat from his brow. Saved the situation. Yeah, I guess that works. But we still need a better long-term plan. Your cycles aren't done yet, and that flare wasn't the last of it. Threxel gave a slow nod. Agreed. Adaptation must continue. Your ingenuity is invaluable. Kai smiled faintly. Thanks. I think. Let's just hope I survive tomorrow too. As night fell, the apartment finally quieted. The panels and wires hummed softly. Threxel rested on his aluminum perch, and Kai leaned back, exhausted but triumphant. He had faced the worst of the day and survived. And in that moment, Kai realized something. Humans were not just adaptable, they were capable of extraordinary things when forced to face impossible challenges. And living with an alien roommate in the middle of a lockdown? That was a challenge unlike any other. Kai didn't know what the next day would bring. More heat surges? Another flare? Equipment failures? Probably all of the above. But one thing was certain. He was ready to face it. Because humans adapted, humans endured, humans survived. And sometimes, just sometimes, humans could even save the day one heat cycle at a time. Kai awoke to a faint humming, stronger than usual. The apartment felt warmer, even hotter than yesterday. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes, and glanced at Threxel. The alien's scales were glowing with a bright green-gold intensity, and small energy pulses radiated outward, vibrating the floorboards beneath them. Not again, Kai muttered, swinging his legs off the bed. He grabbed a towel to wipe the sweat from his forehead. We survived the last flare, but apparently today is trying to one-up us. Threxel's wings were slightly extended, and his breathing was uneven. Kai. The surge intensity is reaching a critical threshold. The secondary stabilizers may not handle the full output of my cycle combined with the peak radiation of the flare. Kai gulped. Critical threshold? Translation. Things might go boom? Threxel's expression was calm but serious. Potentially. If we fail, structural damage could occur, and electrical systems may be destroyed. Kai swallowed hard. Right. No pressure then. He jumped to his feet. They didn't have the luxury of panic. This was serious. The morning began in a tense blur of preparation. Kai checked every panel, rewired grounding rods, and tested the makeshift absorption circuits. Aluminum sheets shimmered faintly under the morning sun, and wires hummed with low-level energy. He glanced at Threxel, who crouched near the panels, exhaling short bursts of heat and energy as his body prepared for the inevitable surge. Ready? Kai asked, gripping a grounding rod in one hand. Threxel nodded. Ready. But the surge will require both of our focus. Manual control may be necessary to prevent overflow. Kai shivered. Manual control. Great. Nothing says fun like being a human circuit operator for a living battery. Almost immediately, the first surge hit. Threxel's body radiated heat and bioelectric energy, the aluminum panels vibrating and wires buzzing as the energy was absorbed. Sparks flew from an old lamp that had not been unplugged, and the small ceiling fan shook violently. Kai lunged forward, connecting a loose wire to a grounding rod and adjusting the circuit to redirect the flow. The surge roared through the system, making the apartment hum like a strange, alien engine. Careful! Threxel hissed, exhaling sharply. The next pulse will be stronger. Kai gritted his teeth, sweat dripping from his forehead. I'm on it. Just don't fry me in the process. The second surge hit with the force of a miniature storm. The aluminum panels vibrated violently, bending slightly under the heat, and the circuits buzzed dangerously. Kai adjusted connections as fast as he could, feeling his hands tingle from the energy passing nearby. Threxel exhaled a low, controlled hiss. "Your coordination is impressive. Humans adapt quickly in crisis." Kai groaned. "Impressive? Yeah. I'll take that as a compliment while almost dying." By midday, the cosmic flare outside had reached near peak intensity. The sky glowed with swirling violet and gold streaks, visible through the apartment window. Radiation pulses shook the building subtly, and the combined effect of Threxel's heat cycle made the apartment feel like it could melt at any second. "Okay," Kai muttered. "We need a final solution. Something to absorb the remaining energy, without me having to babysit it every second." Threxel's eyes flickered with thought. "We can use the building's grounding system. If we channel the surplus energy into the structure's conductive pathways, it can disperse safely without harming us or the apartment." Kai's eyes lit up. "Yes, that's brilliant. But I have to connect it manually during peak pulses?" Threxel nodded. "Yes. The system is delicate. You must maintain control while the surge occurs." Kai swallowed hard. "Right. Here goes nothing." The next surge hit almost immediately. Kai clutched the main grounding rod, sweating and trembling as the energy roared through the circuits. Aluminum panels vibrated under the load. Wires glowed faintly, and small sparks flew from loose connections. Threxel exhaled steadily, his body radiating controlled pulses into the panels. Kai moved quickly, connecting the grounding rod to the building's main system, carefully adjusting the circuit distribution to balance the flow. The hum of energy filled the room, vibrating every surface. His hands tingled, but he kept going, every second counting. Almost stable," Threxel muttered, wings extended for balance. Kai's arms shook. "Come on. Just a little longer. Just hold it." A sudden pulse hit harder than before, sending a small shockwave through the apartment. Lights flickered violently, the fans spun uncontrollably, and a framed picture fell from the wall. Kai held onto the rod with every ounce of strength he had, adjusting the circuit to redirect the energy safely into the building's grounding system. Threxel's eyes glowed brighter, and he exhaled a long, controlled breath, focusing all his energy on minimizing the surge. "You are enduring this well, Kai. Few would survive this without faltering." Kai gritted his teeth. "Enduring? Yeah. Barely. But I'm still alive, right?" Minutes stretched like hours. The surges continued, each one stronger than the last. Kai and Threxel worked together seamlessly, one regulating energy output, the other manually stabilizing the circuits. Sweat ran down Kai's face, his hands shook, and every muscle ached. Then, finally, the last peak pulse hit. It was the strongest yet. But Kai adjusted the grounding rods, and Threxel channeled every bit of energy into the aluminum panels and building structure. The surge roared through the system, vibrating the apartment violently, then slowly subsided. Silence fell. The lights hummed steadily. The fan stopped wobbling. Even the small kitchen appliances were quiet, no longer flickering or sparking. The apartment was safe. Kai collapsed onto the floor, exhausted. "We did it." Threxel lowered his body, scales dimming slightly as he exhaled a long, slow breath. "Yes, the energy is contained. Structural integrity remains intact. You saved the situation." Kai looked around at the mess of aluminum panels, wires, and sparking circuits. "Saved? Yeah, I guess that works." He gave a tired laugh. "I'm going to need a long nap, maybe a week." Threxel's eyes softened. "You demonstrated remarkable ingenuity and endurance. Humans are extraordinary when faced with impossible challenges." Kai smiled weakly. "Extraordinary? Yeah. I'll take that." Outside, the cosmic flare slowly faded. the violet and gold streaks of radiation disappearing from the sky. The city remained quiet, emergency alerts continuing. But the immediate danger had passed. Inside, Kai and Threxel shared a moment of quiet relief. The apartment was damaged but intact, and the energy surges were stabilized. They had survived the worst of the heat cycle combined with the cosmic flare. Kai looked at Threxel. You know, humans adapt, survive, and sometimes even save the day. Threxel's eyes gleamed faintly. Indeed, your species is remarkable. Today, you proved that adaptability and ingenuity can overcome even the most chaotic conditions. Kai laughed softly. Yeah, adaptability. That's one way to put it. I call it sheer panic mixed with stubbornness. Threxel tilted his head, clearly amused. Regardless of terminology, the outcome is the same. You are exceptional. Kai leaned back, exhausted but triumphant. He had faced extreme heat surges, bioelectric chaos, and the peak of a cosmic flare. And somehow, he had survived. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring: more cycles, more surges, or another flare. But he knew this. Humans adapted. Humans endured. Humans survived. And in a strange, alien way, living with Threxel during a lockdown had proven it. Kai smiled faintly. Tomorrow, we do it again. But for now, we rest. And maybe we rebuild a few of these wires before anything else explodes. Threxel lowered his body onto the aluminum panels, wings folded, and exhaled a steady rhythm. Agreed. Rest is necessary. You have earned it, Kai. For the first time in 3 days, the apartment felt calm, safe, balanced. And Kai realized something important. Humans were not just survivors. They were creators, innovators, problem solvers, and when paired with determination and a little alien assistance, they could overcome almost anything. The morning sun filtered softly through the dusty windows of the apartment. For the first time in days, Kai felt the warmth was ordinary, not the extreme heat radiating from Threxel's cycle. The apartment, though a little battered and messy, was intact. Aluminum panels leaned against walls, wires snaked across the floor, and the faint hum of the stabilizers now served as a quiet reminder of their recent chaos. Kai stretched, rubbing his sore muscles. Finally, a normal morning. At least for now, he muttered, glancing at the alien. Threxel was curled up near the aluminum panels, scales a soft green with a faint gold shimmer. His breathing was slow and steady. The heat cycle had ended, at least temporarily. You are awake, Threxel observed. Your rest is overdue. Kai flopped back onto the sofa. You can say that again. My body feels like it went through 3 storms in a row. He let out a long sigh. And yet, somehow, we made it through. Threxel's eyes glimmered with something that Kai could only interpret as admiration. Indeed. You demonstrated exceptional resilience and adaptability. Few humans would have endured the combined stresses of cycle season and a peak cosmic flare. You have earned respect. Kai chuckled softly. Respect, huh? I'll take it, though I'd rather just take a long nap first. They both remained quiet for a while, the apartment peaceful for the first time in days. The chaos of Threxel's heat cycle, the surging energy pulses, and the cosmic flare outside had all passed. And in that calm, Kai allowed himself a moment of reflection. He thought about the city beyond the apartment walls, empty streets, and silent towers bathed in the fading light of the cosmic flare. The lockdown was still in effect, but the immediate danger had been avoided. Thanks to human ingenuity, quick thinking, and a lot of sweat, the apartment had survived. By midday, Kai had repaired a few minor damages and reorganized the mess of wires and panels. Threxel watched him work with quiet interest. You continue to improve the environment efficiently. Humans truly are remarkable. Kai smiled, wiping a bead of sweat from his forehead. Thanks, I think. Though I'm not sure if it's remarkable or just desperation at this point. Threxel tilted his head. Survival under extreme stress is remarkable. Regardless of internal reasoning, you have adapted to an unprecedented situation, combining logic, creativity, and endurance. Kai laughed softly. Well, when you put it that way, I guess I did something right, even if it was mostly panic mixed with last-minute ideas. The alien gave a soft hum of acknowledgement, and for a moment, the two sat quietly in the apartment. No surges, no flickering lights, no humming panels, just calm. Later, the city's emergency broadcasts updated residents about the flare's gradual dissipation. Radiation levels were dropping, and power systems were stabilizing. Kai leaned against the window, observing the outside world slowly returning to normal. Looks like things are finally settling down, he said. Threxel's gaze followed his. The environment is stabilizing. Your species' efforts alongside my cooperation have ensured no critical damage occurred. Humans can endure and overcome when faced with extreme challenges. Kai smirked. Endure and overcome. Yeah, that sounds about right. Though I'd prefer if the next crisis involved fewer sparks and fewer chances of spontaneous fires. Threxel's faint hum of amusement vibrated through the apartment. Noted. Future cycles may still require precautions, but perhaps with further preparation, the impact can be minimized. Kai nodded slowly. Preparation. Right. I suppose I've learned a lot these past few days. He glanced at Threxel. And you've probably learned something too. Huh? The alien gave a small nod. Indeed. Humans' adaptability, resilience, and creativity exceed what I anticipated. Your species is capable of extraordinary problem-solving under pressure. Kai smiled faintly, feeling a rare sense of pride. For all the chaos, exhaustion, and constant stress, they had survived. And not just survived, they had adapted, collaborated, and overcome the impossible together. By evening, they had returned the apartment to a semblance of normalcy. The makeshift shields and grounding rods were dismantled, wires neatly organized, and furniture repositioned. The air smelled faintly of warmth and ozone from the energy surges, but it was bearable. Threxel approached Kai, standing silently for a moment. Your efforts have ensured safety and stability during a period that would have overwhelmed many beings. You are exceptional. Kai shook his head, smiling. Exceptional. Huh? I'll take it. But really, it was teamwork. You couldn't have done it alone, either. Threxel's eyes glimmered softly. True. Cooperation was essential. Yet, your ingenuity and determination were instrumental. Your species has admirable qualities. Kai leaned back on the sofa. Admirable qualities. Yeah, I guess humans do have that going for them. Adaptation, problem-solving, stubbornness. And apparently, we're good at saving alien roommates from turning our apartments into furnaces. The alien gave a small hum of amusement. Indeed. And for that, your species may earn acknowledgement from the Aral Combine. Few humans are recognized for such accomplishments. Kai raised an eyebrow. Recognition? From your alien government? Now that's something I never expected. Threxel's eyes glimmered faintly. It is true. The Combine has noted your efforts. You have demonstrated a capacity to manage complex crises effectively. This is rare among humans. Kai shook his head in disbelief, letting out a soft laugh. Well, who would have thought? Me, surviving a lockdown, a cosmic flare, and an alien roommate's heat cycle, and getting a commendation for it. Threxel gave a soft hum. Commendation well earned. Your species' ingenuity and perseverance have been validated. Kai leaned back, closing his eyes briefly. He felt exhausted but satisfied. You know, I never thought living through a lockdown would be so intense. But somehow, it's been kind of rewarding. Threxel tilted his head. Rewarding, yes. Mutual learning and cooperation are valuable outcomes. You have adapted remarkably well to a situation beyond normal expectations. Kai opened his eyes and smiled. Yeah, adapted, survived, and apparently saved the day too. As night fell, the apartment grew calm. Threxel rested near the aluminum panels, his scales dimmed to a soft glow, and the low hum of the stabilizers became a comforting background sound. Kai sat on the sofa, gazing at the city skyline, now bathed in a peaceful glow from streetlights and the fading flare. He reflected on the past few days, the chaos, the tension, the constant adaptation, and the teamwork between human and alien. He realized that survival wasn't just about enduring, it was about creativity, collaboration, and the ability to face the impossible without giving up. Humans, he thought, really could adapt to anything. And when combined with determination, ingenuity, and a willingness to work with others, even alien roommates, they could accomplish extraordinary things. Threxel stirred slightly, lifting his head. Kai, your species' capacity for problem-solving and perseverance is impressive. You have demonstrated qualities that are exceptional. Kai chuckled softly. Thanks, Threxel. I think we make a pretty good team. Even if we almost destroyed the apartment in the process, the alien gave a soft hum of agreement. Indeed. And now, rest is deserved. Tomorrow, we may face minor fluctuations, but the major threat has passed. You have earned this reprieve. Kai leaned back, closing his eyes. Reprieve. Yes. Finally. He felt the exhaustion from the past days wash over him. A satisfying kind of tiredness that came from knowing they had survived and triumphed. Outside, the city remained quiet. But life was slowly returning. The lockdown continued, but the cosmic flare had faded, leaving the streets safe. Inside the apartment, two very different beings, one human, one alien, had endured extreme circumstances and come through stronger for it. Kai smiled faintly. Humans adapt, survive, and sometimes even save the day, he said softly. And apparently, we can even earn alien respect while doing it. Threxel lowered his head, eyes soft with appreciation. Indeed. Today, you have proven that adaptability, ingenuity, and determination can overcome almost any challenge. Humans are extraordinary. Kai leaned back on the sofa, letting out a long, contented sigh. The crisis was over. The apartment was safe. The heat cycle had ended. And in the quiet calm of the evening, he felt proud. He had survived. Humans had adapted. And somehow, against impossible odds, they had succeeded. And that, Kai thought with a faint smile, was exactly what it meant to be human.